Since starting my own business, I have discovered something I never knew I would enjoy so much. What is it? Making my own graphics. Maybe you've seen my YouTube cover templates, Instagram quotes, and carousels, also Facebook infographics. Can I tell you how much fun I'm having and how easy it is to make these on Canva? I even do it on my phone. It's that easy. If you're looking for a simple way to make graphics for social media, maybe school, I'm a teacher as well, so I use it for that, or even for work, you're going to love Canva. There is a free version of the program, but the pro version, so worth it. It's $119, and you can also pay monthly. I share my designs with my team at school and at home where we collaborate on designs. And I'm going to give you 45 days free of Canva Pro. If you go to my website, natalietizdal.com/favorites, just click on Canva once you get there. I may get a small commission if you purchase through this link, but that's just to keep my website and my podcast going. So thank you. Once again, natalietizdal.com/favorites and click on Canva. Hi, everyone. It's Natalie. In the last few years, I've realized that we don't have to conform to society when it comes to how we feel, specifically what we put into our bodies. Although we're surrounded by messaging that's not always healthy, we can control our health, and we have the ability to control our attitudes about our health. You don't have to think of limiting what you eat, but instead think of the beautiful foods and supplements you can nourish your body with every single day. My guest is an inspiration, and I can't wait for you to hear what she has to offer. Pauline Cox is a passionate advocate of anti-inflammatory lifestyles using food as medicine. She has 2 bachelors of science and a master's in nutrition from the University of Bristol. We talked about hormone balance, ideal foods for immunity, bloating, and so much more. Be sure to join me on my website. And if you've not done so already, I would love to deliver tips like you will be learning today right to your inbox. You can join my newsletter by going to natalietizdal.com or clicking the link in the show notes. On to the interview now with Pauline Cox. Pauline, I want to jump right into this topic of hormones. And I think most people think it's going to matter when I hit menopause, which for most women, probably just around 50 midlife. But what I'm hearing from you and what I know about you is that's not always the case. It's the before menopause.
Absolutely. It's that really crucial period, the perimenopause, Natalie. And that really is, it's about a 10-year period where our hormones really start to change. Anywhere from the age of 35, particularly over the age of 40, we get this shift in our hormones. And that shift can really be impacted by lifestyle and nutritional habits. And so we can really make that transition from the sort of perimenopause to the menopause to postmenopause a much more enjoyable experience and a much better experience if we have that knowledge and understanding of what we can do to make that transition better.
I remember when I was young, thinking, oh, that's so far off. That's old people. Menopause, that's old people. But I'm listening to you talk about perimenopause. And a lot of women are having babies still in their 40s, especially with the delay of having families. But how does one know that this is the cycle they're entering? And, some people have regular blood work, but how can we become more aware of this?
That's such a great question because really every woman is slightly different. However, our hormonal kind of life spectrum, if you like, is really interesting. So as a teenager, we have quite erratic hormones. When we first start having our periods can be heavy, long, short, very random until they start to settle in their 20s. And then again, things stay relatively stable depending on what our lifestyle and our diet's like through the 30s. And then as we enter our mid to later 30s, particularly our early 40s, the hormonal changes start to kick in. And this is where, again, depending on lifestyle and diet, things can start to change. So our progesterone tends to decline at a fairly steady rate, but estrogen can be quite erratic again, just like back in our teenage years. And so women can start to find from their 40s onwards that their periods start getting heavy again, or they might get longer or shorter or stop missing periods. And so really those telltale signs start to come in with our menstrual cycle and the changes that we might start experiencing from about the age of 40 onwards.
Okay, so let's focus on that for a moment, and then let's move into our 50s. So in our 40s, maybe we're in perimenopause. Maybe we know it, maybe we don't. Do you recommend, let's start with that. Do you recommend validating that with blood work, or what do you recommend for women in their 40s?
I think really from women in their 40s, it's just an understanding that this is a normal transition. Hormones change. How quickly they change and how erratically they change is very much dependent on our lifestyle and diet. For example, stress. Stress has a big impact on our sex hormones because it impacts something called progesterone. So estrogen and progesterone work together. They have this really beautiful dance where progesterone helps keep estrogen in check. However, progesterone has the same precursor as cortisol, our stress hormone. And so if we're stressed a lot of the time and we're making lots of cortisol, then progesterone levels start to lower. And that can cause estrogen to start to go higher, hence us having maybe heavier periods or some of these estrogen dominant type symptoms like PMS or breast tenderness. Now, as we enter that period of our 40s, if progesterone is already starting to gradually decline and we're stressed on top of that, you can see how that would increase the decline of progesterone and start to cause that mismatch between estrogen and progesterone. And so the symptoms of early perimenopause leading into the later stages of perimenopause can be much more significant if we don't have those supporting lifestyle habits and dietary habits to help with balancing out the hormones.
Okay, so I've heard you say it so many times. I want to go deeper into these lifestyle habits. What are the things we can and should be doing to help balance that? I love the way you say estrogen because we say estrogen. So I want to say estrogen because it's more fun today. What are the things that we can do to balance those two?
I love that. Such an important question. So dietary wise, it's so key that we ensure our blood sugars are really nice and stable. So blood sugars play an incredibly important role throughout our female lives, but particularly when we get to this stage of perimenopause. If we have high blood sugars, it's going to drive something called insulin resistance. And this is where our insulin levels just start to creep up. And that has a really big impact on inflammatory levels, has an impact on weight. So it can really start to change our body composition. It encourages visceral fat to be laid down to that belly fat. And it really has an impact on our cognitive function. So memory, brain fog, recall, mental well-being, all of the areas of the body that become insulin resistant, including the brain, including the muscles and the other cells and tissues of the body, are affected when insulin starts to go up and they can't get the fuel in anymore. So we start to experience fatigue and a lack of focus and concentration, but also this weight gain. And that creates this kind of perfect metabolic storm, which has a big impact on thyroid hormones, as well as our sex hormones, estrogen and progesterone. So blood sugars would be the first thing I would say from a nutritional perspective.
So all sugars? So any refined sugar, or what about fruits and things like that?
For sure, refined sugars. So the thing to really recognize here, Natalie, is that it's not just about the white stuff that we add to our cups of tea. It's really about looking at the impact food has on our blood sugar. So, for example, we might be eating whole wheat bread and pasta, and we might be having porridge with bananas and maple syrup, all these foods that we traditionally would think of as being quite healthy, but actually are having a really big impact on our blood sugars. And it may be in our 20s or even early 30s when we're very active and we're using up lots of glucose, our insulin sensitivity is really high, that our body can handle that level of blood sugar when we're eating those types of foods. But actually, as we start to get into our late 30s, early 40s, maybe we're not as physically active, maybe we don't have the same muscle mass, maybe our insulin sensitivity is not so great. Our growth hormone definitely starts to decline. That impacts our metabolism and our muscle building. Then our blood sugar becomes more sensitive, i.e. we can't handle those foods that have the really high glycemic index. And so we want to be looking at more vegetable based, like lots of cruciferous and green leafy vegetables, colorful vegetables. Half of our plate can be full of these wonderful vegetables, and then a quarter of a plate with our lovely quality protein like eggs and fish, chicken, but really nice quality meats or quality protein like fish and eggs. And then the other quarter of our plate, healthy fats, which are the backbone of our hormones. Low fat diet is another precursor to hormonal imbalance and disrupting. So we want those healthy fats, avocados, olives, olive oil, avocado oil, eggs. So the really beautiful healthy fats that are going to help sustain us, keep us nice and satiated, but also aren't going to have an impact on inflammatory levels as well, which some fats can.
So I'm hearing this thinking keto. That's the term that in the last couple of years, people have been doing keto diet, but that's really hard for people who are especially used to breads and pastas, and especially in America, we love our carbs.
You're absolutely right. And I think really it's about finding those empowering alternatives so that we don't have to give up and do without. We can actually just look at really lovely alternative forms of a very familiar food. So I love bread rolls and bagels, but I have them made out of seed flowers and psyllium husk and almond flour and coconut flour. So these flours are very high in fiber, which is very good for our bowel health. Again, incredibly important for our hormone balance. The bowel movements are very, very important to stop hormones that we want to get excreted from being reabsorbed into the body. Very important for our gut microbiome also. So these fiber-rich flours that don't have the same blood spiking impact they're just ideal for making these lovely bread alternatives. Now they are more expensive because the product is more expensive. Wheat flour is very, very cheap and very cheaply produced also. So it makes sense that wheat flour is breads made from wheat flour are less expensive. However, when you buy these really quality alternative breads that are very low in sugars, low in carbs, and packed with fiber and healthy fats and nutrients, seeds and nuts are very high in vitamin E. So you're getting all these wonderful ingredients. You don't actually need as much of the product either. I tend to find that maybe 3 bread rolls will do me for the whole week, but it's there if you want it. If you want some scrambled eggs, or if you fancy some smoked salmon and cream cheese with a bagel, it's there. You're not thinking, oh, I just wish I could
have it. There's something about when you tell yourself I can't have it, you want it more. So finding that alternative is, and one thing I notice often is the popularity of carb-free or even gluten-free, that there are so many products out there now that really aren't that good for you, but they say gluten-free or keto, but they're loaded with other things that we don't want. Do you find that as well?
Absolutely, Natalie. And I think you've made such a great point there. It's so important to look at labels and just look for those simple ingredients: coconut flour, almond flour, psyllium husk, which is a really nice rich source of fiber, maybe coconut oil. It could be that there's some seed flours like sesame in there, or chia seed. If you start looking at these gluten-free products and you don't recognize the name of the ingredient, don't buy it.
Those really long words. I have no idea what that is. It's probably not good.
And the really beautiful thing about this way of eating is it does encourage us to burn our own fat for fuel. So it really helps with hunger. It stops that blood sugar roller coaster, which really drives eating. And as we get over about the age of 40, because of the hormonal shift, we do find that our metabolic rate starts slowing and our hunger levels start increasing. So things like growth hormone and testosterone lower, then things like leptin and ghrelin, our hunger hormones, increase, insulin increases. So we find this shift in hormones tends to drive increased appetite, but slower metabolism. So we do want to start being more focused and cautious about the foods that we kind of got away with eating in our 20s, the fast food, the processed food, the sugars, drinking maybe every other night or partying a lot. There's a transition. And part of having this great menopausal period leading into menopause is about accepting that, I can't eat and drink and live like I used to. Now is the time that I really want to start focusing on looking after my brain health and my liver health and my gut health, and really making this transition through and thinking about where do I want to be in my 80s and 90s and how I want to protect my brain function. Because, over the age of 50, Natalie, the biggest killer in women is heart disease. But over the age of 75, the biggest killer in women is Alzheimer's. So we really want to be thinking about how diet and lifestyle impact those statistics and how we can protect ourselves from being one of those statistics.
So you talked about that stage of perimenopause. How does a woman know I've hit menopause? Is it strictly that I've stopped having periods? How do you know when that's what it is? And what should you be doing differently there? Or are all the things you just spoke about, do they apply to menopause? Are you looking for ways to stay energized, healthy, and help your family stay healthy? I've started taking supplements from Seeking Health, and it has changed the game for me. I no longer worry that my family is getting enough of the vitamins we need, and I know the quality of what we're taking is top notch. I take an immunity support supplement, magnesium, and several others, including electrolytes to stay hydrated. So many people ask me about these supplements that I've made it really easy for you to find right on my website, natalietisdale.com/favorites. Also, bonus, I have a coupon code to help you save 10% on your order. You will find that coupon code on the website as well. Go to natalietisdale.com/favorites. Click on Seeking Health. I may earn a small commission if you purchase there, but that's just to help my small business grow, the website and the podcast, to keep this news and good interviews coming your way. Again, natalietisdale.com/favorites and click on Seeking Health.
Yes, they really apply to this lead up. So menopause is defined as 1 year of no periods. So we've stopped having the bleeding for exactly 12 months. And then technically that's your menopause. So it's this period leading up to menopause. And actually, there's no time that's too early to be preparing our bodies for balancing female health. Because, in our 20s, we're sort of maybe looking at having children in our later 20s or early 30s. So we really want to be focused on stabilizing hormones and optimizing fertility. After we've had children, if we do want children, then at that point, again, we want to be looking at stabilizing hormones, because many women in their 30s now aren't just juggling motherhood, they're juggling work and the stress of family life and taxiing children everywhere. Women don't have that same lifestyle as maybe 30, 40 years ago. Women would have this much more emotional and physical stress on women. So even in our 30s, we really want to be thinking, how do I support my liver? How do I support my gut health? How do I eat to really balance my hormones and optimize my energy levels, my sleep? And then from 40s onwards, again, really important to be thinking, am I self-medicating with sugar and caffeine and alcohol? And what's that actually doing to me? I might feel better in that moment, but actually what's it doing to my hormones and my sleep and my blood sugars and my body composition? And how's it impacting my mental well-being and my energy and my relationship with myself? So it's about maybe just examining those habits that we have going on in our life and thinking, what could I be doing as an alternative to give myself that stress relief and that that vice that's going to be impacting my health in a really positive way, rather than something that short term feels good, but actually it's having a really negative impact on my overall long-term health.
Yeah. How does this apply to families? Like I have 3 children and I am always trying. I mean, I feel like I'm not successful at it, but I keep trying of telling them eat from the earth. Like the color in your food should come from the ground, like so many additives and colors. And so I feel like what you're saying is good for anyone. I mean, we're speaking about women and hormones, but how do you balance this with a family and a husband and, the 12-year-old picky son who doesn't want to eat what I eat?
Yes. Oh, Natalie, that's such a great question. And I have a 12-year-old son also who, so I hear what you're saying. And really what children tend to do is model those around them. So I don't force the children to eat certain foods, but what I do is encourage them to select. So by putting things on the table, everyone's sitting down together to eat, and seeing, mum and dad eating blueberries and strawberries, or having some lovely steamed broccoli with some nice great cracked pepper and salt on there, or having carrots with some hummus. So finding those, like, make your battles easy and choose your battles. So if they'll eat carrots and peppers, but they're not eating their broccoli, hey, that's a win. It's really about encouraging the behaviors that they're already showing a little bit of, as opposed to berating the ones that they're not getting quite right yet. So I've always found offering a selection and finding a compromise. If they want pizza, fantastic, let's make one ourselves, and let's add on some peppers on there, and let's have it with some greens, and let's pair it up and team it up with other things that are going to be really healthful for them, but they still get some of the foods that they love as well.
Yeah. And the alternative type crust, I'm imagining too. What do you make pizza with?
Quirky ingredients.
Tell me, I want to know.
Well, again, it comes back to the seed flours. So things like almond flour and egg and coconut oil, that my children are fortunate in that they've grown up in the environment that I'm in. The biggest challenge I find is when they're outside of the environment. So, going to school and parties and friends' houses, and they're like, well, I want the M&Ms and I want the foods that other kids might have more readily, and foods that I'm less encouraging of, and actually just don't even buy in the house. So that when they're hungry, they'll grab a banana, or if they want something a little sweeter, then we're like, right, okay, let's make some nice muffins, but making them out of almond flour and eggs and bananas and maybe some choc chips in there too. So it's having that kind of armory of things in the fridge and in the cupboard that when they want something and when they're hungry enough, they'll start picking at the grapes, and they'll start just helping themselves to the slices of charcuterie meats or cheese. I find cheese boards are great for mealtime, just putting up some nice raw cheeses and some grapes and some chopped up fruit salads. Making things look really appealing for the eyes works very, very well with children as well.
Yeah. And from the earth, I just say that and I'm sure they're tired of me saying it. Okay. So I want people to access more of your information because I know you put a lot of it out there, and I just love the way you describe it and the way you present it. So how can women who are interested in changing all of these things or getting on a better routine get more information from you?
Well, I run a free Facebook group called Healthy Keto and Low Carb Living. And so that's a nice place to just dip your toe into and have a look at what people are sharing in terms of ingredients and recipes and food ideas. If you're looking for more structured support in a slightly more formal setting, then I also run a women's health membership, which every month I do 2 lives on various subjects. So at the moment, I'm running a hormone series for the next 5 months, which sounds like a really long time, but actually there's so much to get to grips with hormones. And I feel like it's not just a one topic recording. It's something that I love women to really get to grips with, understanding, the impact of eating for our brain protection when we get to this perimenopausal age, the impact of exercise, on pelvic floor health. So there's a whole series of subjects we're covering in that membership. And it's a membership it's really appropriate for women of all ages, from teenage 20s right through to 80s and 90s, because your body is incredibly responsive and it will change at any age. And I've had a lady, gosh, she was 76 when she joined and had incredible changes to an autoimmune condition she'd been suffering for many, many, many years. So it's something that our body is very forgiving and can always find room for improvement.
I think that's really important. And I'm struggling with lack of energy in the afternoon, and I blame it on other things. Say, oh, I'm just busy, or I have a heavy load, or I've been traveling, and yet taking that step back and saying, well, wait a minute, what have I been eating? Have I been exercising as much? Instead of blaming it on other things.
Absolutely. And we do tend to normalize, Natalie. We normalize period issues like heavy periods or skip periods. We normalize tiredness. We normalize lack of sleep. We normalize feeling anxious. But actually, when we start looking at the different components that build great mental health and great physical energy and great sleep and hormonal balance, there is so much we can do to empower ourselves with our hormone journey and our health journey and our health outcomes at any stage in our life.
Can I ask you about following up on that? When a woman hits menopause, and this is one of those things when you're young, you think, I'll never have to deal with that. And when they're doing everything you're talking about, are hormone supplements something that you can avoid if you're doing all of these things? As I know so many people go to their doctor and say, I just have to take the hormones.
The answer to that is yes, absolutely. You can have this very natural transition from perimenopause to menopause without having, hot flashes and masses of anxiety and insomnia, because those things really start to happen. For example, estrogen plays an enormous role in helping glucose to be taken up by the neurons in the brain. And so as our estrogen starts to decline, that lack of intake of glucose into the brain causes this memory, brain fog, inability to think. It's the same with the mitochondria, which are the batteries of our cells. We have receptors for estrogen on those. And so when our estrogen levels go down, we get this real state of fatigue. Now, how rapidly estrogen declines, again, hugely depends upon lifestyle, stress, dietary. And so you can have a very great transition, but our lifestyle and dietary choices are cumulative over the decades. And so this is why I was saying it's never too early to start really thinking about, nutritional density, gut health, liver function, healthy fats, balancing hormones, insulin sensitivity, and blood sugars, all of these things that build a really strong foundation at any stage in our life, but particularly as we go from our 30s to 40s and from 40s into that menopausal stage.
Yeah. And I want to encourage women to not feel overwhelmed by it, because for some, all of this sounds like so much. I mean, some of us have heard these terms, and being a health reporter for many years, I have. But for other people to think, oh my goodness, you're talking about 10 different things. I don't know what half of these words mean, that it's doable. And it's really not that hard. These are just foods. And most of them are just natural foods versus a lot of processed foods.
Absolutely, Natalie. And yes, and I totally reiterate what you're saying, that it's a step-by-step process, and you don't want to add more stress to yourself by thinking, I can't have this and I must do that. It's about becoming really intuitive with your eating and understanding what are the foods that support your health and how you overcome those cravings, maybe why you're getting those cravings, and maybe the foods that you're eating at the moment are working against you. And so it's this gentle transition over into different foods. And, I've had women saying to me, but I don't like vegetables, and I can't eat this and I don't like that. And that's okay. It's about finding the foods you do like, working with those. And hey, you know what? So many women turn around a month or two down the line and say, my taste buds have changed so much. And now I really love some nice steamed broccoli with salt, and I love my scrambled eggs. And it's a very, very interesting journey that women take when they start falling in love with taking care of themselves and seeing food as a very powerful form of medicine to support their health journey.
I love that. Falling in love with taking care of yourself. What a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I am just so thrilled that we had this conversation. You've inspired me to do things a little bit differently, and to find that energy again that I feel like I've been losing. And I know there are people out there, they tell me all the time they are too. So thank you. Where can people get the information you spoke of just a moment ago on your membership and on your Facebook group?
So the Facebook group is called Healthy Keto and Low Carb Living. The membership, we have a website, which is Fat Burning Females. So it's really about helping women to access that fat burning power again and get away from being sugar burners. And so with your listeners, Natalie, if they use the code Happy Hormones, they will get a 20% discount on the annual membership. So that's saving over $100. Dollar-wise, it's $520 for the year, which gives you access to, well, you get a one-to-one with myself and my other colleague. You also get access to all the library videos, the bi-monthly lives, a private Facebook group. It's an incredibly supportive environment, and we've kept it as cost-effective as we can for the females joining, so that they really get this opportunity to get this kind of quality interaction without paying for that one-to-one that a lot of people, maybe it's out of their means. So,
and having that supportive community and your friends online, all of that, boy, that makes all the difference too.
It really does, from an accountability perspective, but also a support perspective. Just asking the question, is this normal? Or I'm struggling with this. Is anyone else? And having that community of women in that group it really makes a difference. It's like having your hand held through this journey.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's great to talk to you. And I look forward to catching up again soon, getting more tips on how we can eat healthy and just feel better as women.
Thank you, Natalie. It's been so lovely speaking to you today. And I look forward to catching up with you again too also.
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you.